Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us here on this episode of Sharing Delight. Our panel this week is joined by the Reverend Dr. Durrell Watkins, who is the senior minister of the Sunshine Cathedral, with guests Reverend Cindy Lippert and Candace Gee. Their focus of discussion for this episode is on the responsibility without blame. So now we will join them in their discussion of responsibility without blame.
So here's my question. We believe that prayer works. Not necessarily begging the Marquis de God to not torture us, or not necessarily writing a letter to Santa God to give us something nice every once in a while.
Right.
But that there is a science. There is a science of prayer where we can align ourselves with the truth of divine omnipresence, and we can use that power as effectively as when we turn a light switch on, we know light's going to come on. That there's a way that it works, and if we do it properly, it's going to work. And if there's something wrong with the conduit where the energy isn't flowing through, that can be fixed. The problem isn't with the power, it's with the conduit, and the conduit can be fixed. Yes. So we know this. So there's this omnipresence. It is also omnipotence. It is infinity. We are part of it. We are expressions of it. It is in us. It expresses as us. We are people of power. We can do all kinds of stuff. That being said, we want to take responsibility for our lives. I want to get past this addiction. I want to get past this destructive habit that I've had in 10 different relationships. I want to get past this low self-esteem that keeps me from taking that class that's going to help me get a better job, or even applying for a promotion or whatever. I want to get past this problem. And I want to take responsibility and know that I create my reality. I am the thinker that thinks the thought that makes the thing, as Reverend Dr. Johnny Coleman has famously said, and it's become just my mantra daily. I am the thinker that thinks the thought that makes the thing. Now, how do I take that responsibility and become comfortable with it and empowered by it without blaming myself? Because blame is judgment, and judgment is fear, and fear is not God. So with all of that, how do I take responsibility without blaming myself for all the mistakes that I make, for all the times that it didn't seem to work, for all the times that I contributed to stuff that wasn't great? How do I take responsibility without blaming? And maybe it's easier to imagine how I can hold others accountable without blaming, but how do I take responsibility for myself without blaming? Maybe that's just my issue, where I sometimes get caught in, why did I do that? Why did I manifest that? Why did I create that? Why did I step into that? Why didn't I get out of that sooner? Why? I know better. Why am I such a loser? How can we do that? How can we take responsibility while going to that dark, horrible place?
Exactly.
Everybody does that.
It's not just me.
Everybody does it.
I thought I was special. I'm not even special. I can't even
Here
be
we
negative.
Go. More blame.
I can't
More
even be negative
blame.
and critical in a special way. No, sorry.
But again, we have the faculty of choice, and we have to ask ourselves what our payoff is in remaining addicted to feeling crappy.
Oh, right.
I think people just get accustomed. It makes me feel alive if I feel bad about something.
Ooh.
Wow.
I think.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we have to ask
Don't
ourselves.
hold back. Cut through the BS. Just
the-
get right to what you want us to know.
What's the payoff
Yeah.
in it?
Yeah.
Because responsibility, and it's a faculty of choice again. Why
So-
I'm choosing, I want to choose to be responsible for my
Yeah.
life, but the blame carries a negative connotation. That's not going to get me anywhere other than it must be making me feel alive on some level.
Ooh. Oh, maybe as an excuse for why I'm not successful.
So if
Maybe.
I consistently feel like a victim, I'm getting something out of that.
Yes,
Or I'd want to feel differently.
that's right.
Wow.
We're always being, there's demonstration is always happening.
Right. And I'm wondering, is this a cop-out on my part? Because I'm wondering if sometimes we can change our attitude and change our experience without changing some of the outside facts. And two examples that I have in mind is Nelson Mandela spending a quarter of a century in prison. He eventually gets out, becomes president of his country. But you just don't get out of prison and becomes president unless you have spent that quarter of a century building a consciousness, right?
A
So
president consciousness.
So he must have experienced some sort of freedom in incarceration. He must have been able to have an experience that defied the facts. And the same thing with the Dalai Lama. He hasn't been in his home country since he was a teenager. He wrote a book about 15 years ago called Freedom and Exile. How, yes, I'm exiled, basically a prisoner. I can't even set foot in my own country, but I've chosen to experience internally somehow empowerment and freedom and joy. So am I copping out by saying, okay, if the outside experience isn't ideal, I can still have peace and joy. I don't have to feel like a victim. Or am I just copping out for not having created a better experience?
No, I think that's real healing.
Okay.
I think that's real healing, and we get.
So I'm still in the wheelchair, but I'm loving life.
Absolutely.
I may be whole in the wheelchair.
Absolutely.
Yes.
How many people are walking around fully healthy and wealthy and all of it, but miserable? And by the way, just because they're wealthy does not mean they're miserable. Let us
Right.
clear that up right now.
Right. Well, and just because you're living from paycheck to paycheck doesn't mean you're broke.
Absolutely.
And just because you have a lot of money in the bank doesn't mean that you're wealthy. That just like heaven and hell, wealth or prosperity is about consciousness.
Correct.
Right?
Absolutely.
If I think I have plenty, I have plenty.
Exactly.
Yes.
And if I think I don't have enough, no matter what the numbers in the bank say, then I don't have enough.
Exactly.
Prosperity is a matter of consciousness. Health is a matter of consciousness.
I've known wealthy people that had a poverty consciousness
Right.
and couldn't move. They were so paranoid that someone would take advantage of them. And so they had no freedom. You know, poverty has never ever been responsible for unhappiness. Not that I've ever known of. Now, if I don't have enough money to go to the movies, it might cause me a certain amount of sadness at
Right.
the moment. But the point is, we were talking earlier about Eric Hoffer and his great book, The Auschwitz Survivor. And how was he able to survive in such horrible, hopeless circumstances and yet move through that and
I
emerge?
think you mean Frankel.
Victor Frankl.
I'm
Yes.
sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The psychologist Victor
Thank
Frankl,
you.
same thing. He was a concentration camp survivor. And Maximilian Kolbe, who actually died so that another family could be spared in those camps. He made a choice, and I'm assuming was okay with that choice. Like
Exactly.
that, even though he made life possible for someone else, and so probably in his mind he was not victim. He may have even thought of himself as a hero.
You know, it's really interesting because I saw, maybe you saw this, on the CBS wonderful Sunday morning show with Charlie Osgood.
No, I work on Sundays.
Oh, do you really? What a shame. It's a good show. Maybe you could record it. They have technology
there's
that'll
that,
let
there's
you
that.
do that
Okay,
now.
there's that.
Anyway, he had on the a wonderful interview by a woman who survived Auschwitz, and the interviewer asked her, "Why do you think you weren't killed?" Because everybody in your family was. She said, "It was random. It wasn't personal. There were so many of us." What a wonderful attitude.
Yeah.
It wasn't against me personally. Well, yeah, you were Jewish. You know, you could have been gay. There's other
Jehovah's
circumstances.
Witness, communist, whatever. yeah.
Exactly, all kinds of things. But she said it was random. I was lucky,
Yeah.
and that's all she knew.
I want to say something else about this too, because I think that, you know, when something happens and you're having a reflection about, I could have done better, and sometimes it's a shocking thing that you have to take in. So there's an emotional, there is a twang inside of yourself, like, and we all have that. But through choice, we get to change that and shift that to say, you know what, I can take responsibility for that. I didn't choose that wisely, and this is the consequence of it. But I can choose better right now. So we can take the sting of the emotional bite out of it. But I think we do that through our breath. I think we do a lot of things through our conscious breath. It will take it down. It'll lower the decibel of it, and then you can have a perspective on it. Okay.
Well, that's in one of the creation myths in the Bible, is that the ruach, the breath, the spirit, hovers over the waters, the consciousness of creation, and then that's what brings forth the creation and life. So yes, the focusing on your breath is something that can bring forth a new
Spirit.
attitude, a new experience, a new way of looking at it. So, I guess our conclusion is that we can take responsibility without blame. So we can take responsibility, we can make things better, It's a process. There's going to be ups and downs. You fall down, you get back up, and we can have that whole experience without beating ourselves up, without going to blame. We can go to peace instead of to pieces, even while we're working out.
Well said.
Even
Yes.
while we're working out
Yay, I like that.
even while we're working out the details. So it's all good news.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us again on Sharing the Light.
Thank you for joining us for another great episode of Sharing the Light. Tell your friends about this online ministry, and when you're in Southeast Florida, make sure you worship with us on a Sunday at the 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. service. And now for a final word from our senior pastor, the Reverend Dr. Durrell Watkins.
Email me at Durrell@sunshinecathedral.net if you have a religious question or if you'd like to subscribe to our daily devotional magazine, Spirit and Truth. We'll send it anywhere in the United States for an annual donation of any size. You can also email us prayer requests, or you can make donations on our website, www.sunshinecathedral.org. You'll also want to check out our great performing arts series, religious education classes, conferences, and other exciting activities. For now, we wish you many blessings on your spiritual journey.